She didn't raise her voice. She didn't even look uncomfortable. She just leaned back against the kitchen counter and said it calmly, like she was correcting a coworker in a meeting. I wasn't entitled to her body. The words landed harder than shouting ever could. The room stayed quiet, the refrigerator humming between us, and something in the rhythm of the house broke and never reset. That evening had started like dozens before it. I came home from the business center smelling of metal and dust, systems running, everything in order. She was already there, still in her work clothes, phone face down on the table for once. I stepped closer, reached for her out of habit, not urgency. She shifted away without drama, like moving a chair that was in the way. Then came the line. Clean. Final. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because that was the moment I stopped participating. I took my plate to the table and ate alone while she scrolled through messages again, her screen lighting her face with quick flashes she didn't notice anymore. Later, when she went to shower, I wiped down the counter, locked the balcony door, and set my alarm earlier than usual. By morning, the house had a new order. I cleared one shelf in the fridge and moved my things there. I folded my clothes into a separate drawer. When she asked if something was wrong, her tone sounded professional, like HR checking compliance. I answered the same way. Neutral. Short. Correct. That was the first night we slept in the same apartment as strangers, and she didn't realize it yet. The first crack didn't come from her. It came from Ryan. I was in the service corridor of the business center when my phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Ryan Mitchell, sales team lead at the same international firm where my wife, Claire, ran HR. I had seen his name before when she mentioned late project syncs and off-site strategy sessions. He was the type who posted photos from airport lounges and tagged half his company. That afternoon, he uploaded a picture from a corporate retreat, a group shot by a lake. Claire stood 2 people away from him, but his hand rested low on her back, too familiar for a team photo. Her smile in that picture was different from the one she wore at home. It was relaxed, open. That evening she said she had to stay late again. End of quarter hiring push. I nodded and reheated leftovers from my shelf in the fridge. Around midnight, I checked the building security app out of habit. Cameras always told the truth. Not hers. Mine. Then my phone lit up again. A tag story from someone else at her company. Same retreat. Different angle. Claire and Ryan standing close on a balcony, the city behind them. His head leaned toward hers. Not for the camera, but for her ear. I didn't confront her when she came home. I didn't ask about the balcony. I just moved my toolbox from the hallway closet into the trunk of my car the next morning. Something in me had already shifted from husband to observer. The proof didn't explode into my life. It accumulated. Claire started guarding her phone differently. Not hiding it, just angling it away. Screen down on the table. Notifications silenced at home, but active in the car. I noticed patterns because that is what I do for a living. Systems fail in patterns long before they shut down. One evening, she left her laptop open on the dining table while she showered. A message preview slid across the corner of the screen. Ryan's name. It was not explicit. It did not need to be. He wrote that he missed the after-hours strategy sessions and added a winking comment about the next off-site. There was no confusion in tone. It was familiarity built over time. I did not scroll. I did not photograph it. I closed the laptop exactly the way she had left it. The next morning, I reviewed our joint account. There were small charges from a hotel bar near her office. 2 separate evenings. Claimed as team networking. I knew the place. I serviced the HVAC there last year. It was not where teams went to network. It was where people disappeared for a few hours. When she came home that night, she spoke about a difficult candidate she had to terminate. I listened, nodded, asked one practical question. My face did not change. Inside, something had locked into place. I was no longer trying to get my wife back. I was mapping an exit route. The house became efficient. I stopped asking when she would be home. I stopped waiting to eat. I bought a second set of basic cookware and labeled the cabinet shelves with small adhesive tags. Not dramatic, just clear. My groceries went to my side of the fridge. My laundry ran on a different day. I adjusted my schedule at the business center to start earlier and come back later. Claire noticed the logistics before she noticed the distance. She asked why there were separate shelves. I told her it simplified things. She said we were being childish. I agreed that structure usually helps prevent confusion. At night, I went to bed before she finished her calls. When she slipped in under the covers, I was already turned away, alarm set for the morning. She did not touch me. I did not reach for her. 2 weeks into this new rhythm, I toured a small apartment near the business center. 1 bedroom. Clean. Quiet. Clothes enough that I could walk to work. I signed the lease without negotiating. The day I moved my things, she was at the office leading a hiring panel. I used my truck from work and took only what was mine. Tools. Clothes. Documents. The bed stayed. The couch stayed. The silence stayed. On the kitchen table, I left a short note. She was right. Intimacy is a choice. I had made mine. By the time she read it, my side of the closet was already empty. I did not block her number. I just stopped answering immediately. The first night in the new apartment, my phone lit up with missed calls from Claire. Then messages. She wrote that we needed to talk. She asked where I was. She said I was overreacting. I responded once, hours later, with the address for mailing purposes and a note that utilities had been transferred out of my name. The next shift happened without my involvement. 3 days after I moved out, Ryan posted another photo. This time it was from inside the office, a celebratory sales dinner. Claire was not in the frame, but in the background, barely visible in a reflection, he stood close to another woman from his department. A junior account manager named Melissa. I recognized her from the company holiday party. Later that week, a former contractor I knew from that building texted me. He mentioned office rumors. Someone from sales was under review for inappropriate relationships within the team. HR was handling it quietly. Claire. That evening she called again. Her voice was different, less composed. She said there had been misunderstandings at work. She said people were talking. She did not mention Ryan's name. I did not ask. I told her I hoped she handled it professionally. I said I trusted her judgment in workplace matters. Then I ended the call. For the first time, she was the one outside a closed door. The social shift was slower, but heavier. Claire always controlled rooms. At family dinners, she guided conversations away from uncomfortable topics. With friends, she managed tone, pace, boundaries. Now the tone was managing her. Her sister called me one afternoon. She said Claire seemed stressed. She mentioned that at a recent gathering, someone had asked about me and Claire had brushed it off, saying I was busy with work. According to her sister, another friend replied that it was strange I had not been around for weeks. No one accused her. They just noticed. At her office, the review around Ryan expanded. I heard about it from the same contractor, who still had friends in maintenance. Sales numbers were strong, but complaints had surfaced. Melissa had filed something formal. HR was required to document everything. Claire, the HR manager who trained others on boundaries and ethics, was suddenly in meetings she did not control. She texted me late one evening, asking if we could meet. Not to argue, she wrote, just to talk. She said things had gotten complicated at work and she felt alone in it. I read the message while sitting on the small balcony of my apartment. The city below was steady, predictable. I replied the next morning. I told her I was focusing on my own routine and that I hoped she found the support she needed. The silence after that message stretched longer than any argument we had ever had. She came to my apartment without telling me. I opened the door and saw Claire standing there, no makeup, work badge still clipped to her jacket like she had forgotten to take it off. She looked smaller in the hallway than she ever had in our house. She said Ryan had been placed on leave. She said the company was investigating multiple complaints. She said she had not known about Melissa. The way she said his name told me she had known enough. I stepped aside and let her in. The apartment was simple. One couch, one table, no shared photos, no framed vacations. She noticed that first. She walked through the space slowly, like she was touring a model unit. She asked if this was permanent. I told her it was functional. She tried to explain that things with Ryan had crossed lines, but had not meant anything serious. She said she had felt disconnected at home, that she needed attention, that she needed to feel wanted on her own terms. I did not argue with her version. I did not defend mine. When she reached for my hand, I let it hang between us for a second before stepping back. I told her I hoped she resolved her situation at work. I told her I was not available for emotional processing. For the first time since that night in the kitchen, she did not have a script. When she left, she did not close the door fully behind her. I did. The confrontation did not happen in my apartment. It happened in the parking garage of the business center. I had just finished a systems inspection when I saw her car pull in too fast, tires echoing against concrete. She stepped out before the engine fully stopped. She looked around until she found me near the service elevator. She said Ryan had cut off contact. She said he told leadership their involvement had been mutual and informal. She said Melissa's complaint was detailed. She said her own position was being reviewed for conflict of interest. Her voice shook only once, when she said she had defended him at first. I listened with my hands in my jacket pockets. The fluorescent lights above us flickered slightly, a ballast issue I had meant to fix. She asked if this was what I wanted. She asked if I had known this would happen. She said I had become cold, distant, unreachable. She said it felt like I had disappeared long before I moved out. I told her I had adjusted to the boundaries she set. I told her I respected her autonomy. I said nothing about Ryan. She stepped closer, lowering her voice, asking if we could start over, if the apartment was just space to think. I checked my watch out of habit and told her I had a contractor waiting upstairs. Then I walked past her toward the elevator, leaving her standing between two concrete pillars, holding a narrative that no longer included me. The collapse was not dramatic. It was procedural. Ryan resigned before the investigation concluded. The company released a neutral statement about leadership restructuring. Melissa transferred to another branch. Claire remained, but her authority shifted. Some responsibilities were reassigned. Certain meetings no longer required her presence. She stopped posting online. The airport lounge photos disappeared. The corporate retreat highlights were archived. When colleagues gathered for drinks after work, she was not always invited. One evening she called and said she had moved back into our house alone. She said it felt too quiet. She mentioned that the second shelf in the fridge was still empty. She said she had not touched it. I did not comment. She asked if I had started seeing someone else. I told her my routine was steady. Work, gym, sleep. The apartment stayed clean because only one person lived in it. A week later she showed up again, this time without urgency. She sat on my couch and looked at the bare walls. She said she had replayed that night in the kitchen more times than she could count. She said she thought setting boundaries made her strong. She said she never considered what would happen if I set mine. I did not remind her of the note on the table. I did not bring up the balcony photo. When she left, she stood in the hallway a second longer than before, as if waiting for something to pull her back inside. Nothing did. The last conversation happened in daylight. Claire asked to meet at a coffee shop halfway between the house and my apartment. Neutral ground. Public, but quiet. She arrived early. I could tell by the way her cup was already half empty when I walked in. She did not circle around it this time. She said she had confused control with strength. She said she had treated intimacy like a resource she could allocate strategically. She admitted that with Ryan she had not been searching for love, just validation. She said watching me leave without yelling, without pleading, without exposing her, had unsettled her more than any accusation could have. I listened. She said she was willing to rebuild if there was anything left to rebuild. She said she would step down from certain responsibilities at work to remove conflicts. She said she would go to counseling. She did not ask me to move back immediately. She asked what I wanted. I told her I would not compete for access to my own marriage. I told her partnership required reciprocity, not policy. I said I would consider starting over slowly, with clear terms and no hidden channels. She nodded. No argument. When we stood to leave, she reached for my hand again. This time I did not pull away, but I did not tighten my grip either. Outside, we walked in the same direction for a few steps before our paths split. I did not disappear. I just stopped showing up where I was not respected.